Thank you. Thank you, Rotarian Rasmin. Good evening, everyone. Good evening. So it's a good point that Yasmin mentioned just now. We are regarded as Malaysia, the world's garbage dump. Incidentally, we have lately you have heard of a shipment on the way from Los Angeles filled with rubbish from various parts of the US. So once again, based on all the efforts the way our governments, the previous government, the current government have done, it's just not ending. It's getting worse. Yeah, we're getting so that is why the title of the session today, Malaysia knee deep in waste. Before we get neck high or above our neck, we felt that it's already in a critical situation, not only here in other parts of the world, but the focus is on Malaysia today. So we have got 5 important points that we hope to achieve via the session today. Thanks to our highly experienced speakers that we are proud to have today. Yeah, the first point, it's all about covering the important information about waste management in Malaysia. I don't think we know everything about it, but let's hear it from the experts today. Circular economy, many of you would have heard about it. Many others may not have heard about it, but this is the in thing going forward. We have to embrace this and waste tracking. We have to embrace technology utilizing AI and other tech basically. Yeah, digital transformation. We have to move away from the old ways of managing waste and embrace new tech. And finally, after covering all of this, after the 2 speakers have covered all of this, what is it? What's the purpose of being in here? How can you and me participate, be involved, and take action, and most importantly, influence change? Yeah. So without further delay, let me introduce our first speaker today, Dr. Siva Ballen. Thank you, Dr. Siva, for taking your time to be with us today. So, brief profile on Dr. Siva. He has over 25 years of experience in the waste management field. He currently heads the Center of Excellence for Waste Management in Malaysia under the patronage of San Viro and Khazanah National. He is a chartered waste manager and was instrumental in establishing the first refuse-derived fuel RDF plant in Malaysia with a commercial value of about 150 million ringgit. He was also the lead researcher, technical consultant, and acted in the capacity of a technical advisor to the first pilot scale plant and the consequent scale up to the commercial plant for the conversion of municipal solid waste MSW to refuse derived fuel RDF. In the capacity, before San Viro, before being part of EPIC, which is Environmental Preservation and Innovation Center, he was the principal analyst with MITE. The full name is Malaysian Industry Government Group for High Technology under the Prime Minister's Office. He has been the lead for establishing the Biomass Action Plan for the nation, targeting the SME involvement in the biomass sector. He has a huge, long list of track record. I'm just summarizing all of that in just these few minutes here. He has got his diploma and degree in chemical engineering. He went on to take his master's in environmental engineering, and he has now, he has obtained years ago a PhD in waste management. He is one of the only very few chartered waste managers in the country. He's a certified environmental professional in scheduled waste management, and he's a professional technologist in green technology. Dr. Siva Ballen, the floor is yours.
Thank you very much, Suresh. I have to say thank you very much for reading my whole CV. Yeah, you
almost the whole CV.
You could have kept it short, but nevertheless, thank you very much. And first of all, I'd like to thank the Rotary Club for inviting me and giving me the opportunity to speak on this topic. Something that has always been close to my heart for the last since I finished my degree. That's almost close to 30 years now. Because of that, it's also the driving force in bringing me to this stage in my life where there's a lot of reference that comes to me whenever waste management is concerned. So let me the interesting thing is whenever people ask me to talk, and it's always talking rubbish. So I hope I don't talk rubbish here. I will try and give you all a bit of insight on what is happening in Malaysia and also globally, and also to give you all what are the possible things that an individual can do, or an organization, a few individuals of the community level can do, as compared to the large companies, what they are doing. So let me just share my screen. Okay, I hope you all can see my screen.
Yes, we can see. You just need to, yeah, do the slideshow. Yes, great.
Okay. I hope this is not blocking, eh?
No, it's okay. Yes, Ken.
Okay, so now what I plan to do today is just to give you all an overview on waste management in Malaysia. And the building that you see in this first slide is the Center of Excellence for Waste Management, which was set up by Senviro under the patronage of Kazana, to actually lead the drive towards circular economy and green solutions for the country, if not Southeast Asia. And this building is in Kuala Alam, which is located in Sendayan, Seramban. So it's one of the 17 platinum rated green building in the country, the first of its kind in Negeri Sembilan. It sits on a 5-acre landscape, and we have our own solar, we have our rainwater harvesting. The whole building is it depends a lot on natural lighting, and there are many more things inside there. Any one of you are welcome to contact me and visit this place. And the idea why this building is sitting in no man's land, you will say, Sendayan Seramban, is because this is sitting right in the middle of 1 square kilometer of waste treatment technologies. So basically, this building is overlooking the whole of Kuala Alam, which is the largest hazardous waste integrated waste management center, not only in Malaysia. In fact, a lot of people have told me this is one of the largest in the world. It's also, so you have all the different treatments for hazardous waste, for clinical waste, and also by the side of us is also the recently developed Park Municipal Solid Waste Treatment Center. So basically, in a nutshell, why we call it the Center of Excellence is because of whenever we talk, whenever we say waste management, all you need to do is look out the window and you'll see the actual waste management being carried out within and around this building. So that is just to introduce you all to where we are and what we are. Now, moving forward, what is solid waste management and what is municipal solid waste? So municipal solid waste is something that comes out of your daily activities. So and the thing is this: as long as humans are around, the three things that will never disappear from this earth: the need for food, the need for medical and health, and the need to then take care of whatever unwanted, unrequired items that are dropped off by human activity. So the food industry, the medical industry, and the waste industry are all grounded by the fact that humans are not only on planet Earth, but growing by population year on year. So if you look at that, and if you come back to Malaysia, you are then looking at, in 2018, there's about 40,000 tons of waste generated on a daily basis. And out of this, only 15% is being, about 15% to 20% is about being recycled. Generally, 95% of this waste ends up in landfills. The other 10% is recycled. There is a certain amount of leakage into the drains, and that ends up in rivers and ends up in our oceans. Now, the urgency is the fact that with the higher the population, the more the waste is being dumped into the landfills. And with the fact that we do not, we in Malaysia are very, I will say, lead a very luxurious life, where most of us take the easy way out of dumping everything into one bin, and the guys come and pick up this waste, dump it into a lorry that goes 40, 50, 60 kilometers out of the state, out of Klang Valley, and then it goes into a huge big valley in the ground. Unfortunately, these valleys and these landfills are, their lifespans are coming to an end. There's not much holes we can find anymore in the ground. And we need to urgently address the fact that we need to segregate, we need to recycle, and we need to bring this material back to us, because we do not have virgin material anymore coming to us. So you will notice that in 1970, 1960s, 1970s, even 1980s, tin mine was something very big in Malaysia. Today, we don't even know where's the next tin mine in Malaysia, and we don't even know where it is. So that's where we say resources are no more, and we need to bring back these resources to us. Now, with that said and done, what is happening in Malaysia? So until about 2010, our recycling rate was about 5 to about 10%. In 2010 to about 2020, we jumped from 10 to 15% to about 20 to 25%. Unfortunately, these are numbers which are still questionable. But of course, we were also, during this time frame of 2010 to 2020, we were also framed to say that we were the 8th largest contributor to the amount of plastics in the ocean in the world. So if you look at the police, if you go to the police station, you are the 8th most wanted person in the world. That's who we are. Until today, the Malaysian government and also the Malaysian academia are still finding data to go back and rebut this, and to show that we are now no more the top 10, but that data is still hard to come by, and we have yet to show that our recycling rates have gone up. So those are the alarming things that we need to, that I just want to paint. Now, that's said and done. What can be done? Okay. Now, what can be done is the integrated waste management system, that which is the gospel truth for waste management. So the most important thing is the recovery of material, and with the recovery of material, then you look at the biggest component in the waste, which you need to biologically treat, and then if you can go for thermal treatment, and finally landfilling. So landfilling is usually the last option that you should be looking at. And there is a lot of stigma about thermal treatment, but if you go to Japan, Korea, or even the European countries, thermal treatment is very big, and it is something that people rely on very closely. Now,
Hello.
Hello. Yeah. Okay. So moving on. Now, this is the most important thing that I always tell people. We say that we want to solve the problem, but what is the problem? The problem is municipal solid waste, and what makes up the municipal solid waste is it's 40 to 45% to 50% is food waste. And when I say food waste, It's what's coming out from your kitchen, what's coming out from the food industries and all of that. The food processing and everything. So 45% of that is food waste. Now you will say, why are we throwing so much of food waste? It's not because we are throwing food waste. It's because Asian countries do not buy processed food like how you have in Japan and in the European countries. Most of the food is pre-prepared. When we buy a whole chicken. We buy the whole vegetable with everything in it. We buy the onions and then the cucumber, all everything intact. We buy our fruits intact. There is no such thing as cut fruits and all of that. So all these peels and everything accounts for that food waste. Now, the next two biggest items is your plastics and papers. And very surprisingly, you know what's the next biggest thing in the whole system? Diapers. Diapers nowadays makes up from 12 to 15% of the waste in the country. So the rest of it is very small. So if you look at the 80-20 rule, food waste, plastic waste, paper waste, diapers make up 80% of what needs to be handled. Almost 90% of what needs to be handled. And if you look at how much, I mentioned the generation rate is about 40%, 40,000 tons per day. Recycling rate is about 20-25%. Now, the other thing that we need to do, leachate. Leachate is the black color water that every time the lorry passes by in front of your house, it drips in front of your house, and the whole neighborhood can smell it. So that's leachate. That's about 15%. And not only that, the inherent moisture content is 65%. So when you talk about 40,000 tons a day, you're talking about at least 80% of that is just pure moisture. And we are just carrying that moisture from the house to the landfill and making things worse. Okay, now I've given you a picture of what is the problem. 80% needs to be resolved. Out of that 80%, 50% is organics. What can organics be done? The first thing is, what I always say is, we need urban farming. We need urban gardens. We need to develop a simple backyard process where all this garbage plus all this food waste plus leaves plus whatever can be composted. That compost then can be converted into a simple yard where we can plant a few vegetables, and that vegetables can be harvested. So I urge a lot of, in fact, if you look at I know a few gurdwaras in one in Jalan Ipoh, if I'm not mistaken. They have already embarked on this, and they are doing it very successfully. In fact, they have extended it to all the food outlets around there to bring in the food waste, make compost out of it, and I know a little bit of gardening, a little bit of urban gardening is going on, and some of the compost is also being given back to the people for them to then do it in their houses. So this is something which is very, very easy. And to add on to this, the price of vegetable that you are buying outside is not cheap, and it is chemical driven. So by doing your own vegetable farming, you are ensuring that you get your vegetables fresh and organic. Now, the other way of doing things, options, is to also look at this thing called black soldier flies. And these black soldier flies basically are maggots that eat up your whole food chain, and they give you protein meal which can be used for animal feed. They can even give you fat, and they can even give you fertilizers in terms of frass. This is now being cultivated in large numbers, especially in Indonesia. Indonesia is moving very big in this because it also reduces the dependency of importing protein meal from South American countries for their chicken farms and for their fish farms. In Malaysia, this is already kicking off. We've got some small farms running on this, and it's also very, very lucrative once the size gets big. Things so in doing this, you need to have a certain volume to then move these things in an economical manner. Now, moving from organic waste, so going back to the pie chart that I showed you, the biggest problem is the organics, and I've given you two solutions. One is gardening, another one is black soldier flies. So those are the two options. The next option is to look at plastics. Now, plastics, basically, you have a lot of this, and this is the biggest problem. And the biggest problem is how to connect you as a consumer to the recyclers who then recycle the material. So if you look at this chart, I've shown you where the bottlenecks are. And to do this, I'll again give you two options. The first option, Senviro themselves, my parent company, have come up with this program called Recycle for Life, where we are working with the schools and we give the students a smart card. And this smart card, what we do is we have scheduled collection days where the children then bring in their collectible, their recyclables. It is then weighed, and the value of that recyclables are then credited back into the card, and that card can then be used in a list of merchants that you can then redeem these reward points and use it back for your own good, or you can even donate it to a charitable organization. So this is one option. Another option, I think Dr. Sri after this will be talking in length about this, is a app that will help people to then stay at home and use these apps to just say that I want to recycle. I download these apps. I then put my material there. We then try and get someone to come and collect that material from you, or you drop it off at the nearest collection point, and that goes into a full recycling system. I believe Dr. Sri will give you a full length explanation on this after this. Now, that's said and done. So I've given you options for the organics. I've given you options for the plastics. Paper. Now, this is the most important thing. Paper usually is the easiest thing to recycle. Why? Because this material, the paper lama guys come to your doorstep every other weekend. And I always say this is the most successful recycling system because the government never invented it. The private sector just drove it. Why? Because there's a demand for recycled paper in the country, and that is why the material is disappearing from the streets and from your houses. Now, if we can do the same demand and supply for the plastics too will disappear from our front of our houses. I remember when I was, I think in my teenagers, all the houses used to lock down their, drain covers and all the metal bars in front of their house. Why? Because next morning suddenly your drain cover will disappear. Why? Because metal was selling so high. Any piece of metal you find on the road, you recycle, you get money. So basically, recycling is a demand and supply game. If the demand is there, it will disappear from the environment. If the demand is not there, it will stay in the environment. Now, just to move on, I know I'm running beyond my time already. So just to move on very quickly, other options for handling waste. So one option, like what this is a company called Free the Seed. They are converting paddy husk and paddy straw. If you look at the bottom line there, paddy husk and paddy straw is being burnt, but instead of burning, it is now being converted by this company into bio packaging material. And this bio packaging material is fully compostable, and it is being used in more than 15 countries worldwide. In Malaysia, the usage is still very low. Why? Because price war. So sometimes the demand needs to go higher so that the production of this material can come down, and it can replace the polystyrene based material in the market. So this is one option. Now, the next one I like to talk about is MEC Clear Waste. Now, MEC Clear Waste is a local company who has developed their own mobile incinerator. So this incinerator is mobile, and it works in a batch process. And basically, whatever item that goes inside the incinerator, basic when it comes out, it can either be used for the construction industry or as fertilizer. And these machines are now being produced by MEC Clear Waste. The owner of this company is a member of Rotary, I believe. Dato Ram is part of this workshop that we are going through. So you all can contact him. It's a very good technology that is going on, and it solves the problem at the source. So basically, small scale incinerators are good to solve problems at the source rather than making the waste travel long distances and then bringing it into large amounts and having so much other problems. So this is an interesting system which I have to give credit to the local inventors in ensuring that our systems do work in our own country, and we don't need to look at Japan. Every time we want to look at something, we need to look at Japan, Korea, Sweden, UK, US, and all of that. So this is locally developed. Moving on, renewable batteries. So predominantly all our car batteries, I'm not talking about your energizer battery and your phone batteries, but these are the larger batteries for cars, for forklifts, for industrial use, and even for your car. So at the end of the day, you take this battery, you give it back to the shop, and they will then dismantle it, break it up, take out the lead, and it's a single use. So today with this technology, the same battery can be recharged, and it can be used up to 6 times with before it is actually completely depleted and then sent for dismantling and becoming a waste. So this by using this technology, you are reducing the amount of new virgin material that needs to be used. Number two, we can reuse the battery up to 6 times, and the technology is such that it gives you back 100% the way it was when you first buy it new. This technology also originated from Spain, and it is now being enhanced and locally produced by a company called Renewable, and they are already talking to many of the battery companies in Malaysia. So this is another technology, another invention that we can look at in Malaysia. And I believe that is the last that I will be talking about. So just to wrap up, waste management, very interesting. There are lots of options. But if you want to look at municipal waste, then you look at the two biggest items, which is the organics and the plastics. And for that, I've given you options on what you can do, where you can do. And on the other hand, what other technologies in Malaysia can also be adapted by local either companies or industry or NGOs in a certain community. Thank you very much, and I will pass back to Suresh for the next speaker. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Siva. Thank you, Dr. Siva. Something that was mind-blowing just now, which I just could not believe, was when you showed that particular slide. That showed food waste, plastic, paper, and diapers having the highest percentage of waste in Malaysia. I mean, that's That's totally news to me. I would have read so many things online, videos, but wow. So thank you so much. We'll come back to you during the Q&A and we'll find a lot more info about that. So now let's go on to our second speaker, Dr. Sri Lumeswara, in short, Dr. Sri. He is the founder and chief executive officer of ASECO, Sendirian Berhad, which who are actually circular economy experts. Yeah. At a personal level, Dr. Sri is a circular economy, waste, and environmental management expert consultant. He is the Malaysian delegate and subject matter expert at United Nations Environment Program, UNEP expert group, and on marine litter and microplastics. He's also a panel member of in various government agencies on environmental sustainability sectors. Yeah, he's currently being appointed as the subject matter expert for the United Nations Environment Program and the coordinating body on the seas of the East Asia program to develop and implement the reducing marine litter project by addressing the management of the plastic value chain in Southeast Asia. He holds a Master of Science in Waste Management and Environmental Management and a PhD in Energy and Environment. He has received numerous recognition for the approach he has taken where he incorporate latest digital technology, apps and AIs and whatever. One of the recognition is from the mayor of Petaling Jaya, Majlis Bandaraya Petaling Jaya, very, very recently, as close as 2019. He has also received recognition from the Minister of Natural Resources and the Environment back in 2013 for all the contribution he has been giving to sustainable environment. Now he has also interestingly authored a book titled Love the Environment, and it was acknowledged by the Department of Environment Malaysia. What is interesting about this book is that it's a bilingual book covering topics about, of course, the environment, and it's in both English and Tamil. It is the first book on environment in Tamil being published in Malaysia. So now, Dr. Sri, over to you. The floor is yours, and look forward to enjoying your presentation. Thank you.
Very good evening to everyone. Thank you, Mr. Suresh, for the kind introduction. I think we work, myself and Dr. Siva, we work together in various projects in Malaysia. With that, I will straight away go on to my presentation. Okay. Hope everyone can view my presentation, my screen.
Yes, we can. Thank you.
Yes, we can. Yeah.
All right. Thank you. Now, we are talking about circular economy. We are closing the loop with digital transformation and waste tracking. Now, you may have not heard about this because in our daily life, the moment we put our wastages into the rubbish bin or a garbage bag and so on, we are not bothered what is going into it and who's collecting it, what happens to it after that and so forth. But then why do we need to take note of this waste? Now, before that, what's happening to our environment and what is the relation to that? Now, as we all know that from the first video, also we have know that so much of carbon emission being emitted, greenhouse gas, and the earth is actually carrying more than the capacity that it should. And we have lots of other environmental degradation problems and so forth. And when it comes to Malaysia, we have our waste problem, as Dr. Siva mentioned this now as well, from 38,000 ton now to about 40 over 1,000 ton per day. And from the waste also to take note that the carbon emission per capita that has been reported in 2015, Malaysia is ranked third in ASEAN and 44th in the world on the per capita emission basis. Now, In 2030, the waste will be increasing and to about 32% across Southeast Asia. In Malaysia alone, it is expected to increase about 33%. And this is a data and this is a study that has come out from the World Bank. And as we viewed before, this is another graph to show that the waste composition in Malaysia. Now, there's another composition that is already out. You can also Google it, whereby the waste nowadays is going by brand audit, meaning from the waste, they are also finding out which are the brands are contributing towards this waste most.
Sikit lah, tak banyak.
Okay, and apart from the waste, as we all also know, there's we also know that there's a global issue when it comes to plastics. Plastics and every type of waste have a new set of problem. But as Dr. Siva mentioned, we have another plastic issue as because we are contributing towards the marine litter and the ocean litter as well. Okay, now we are moving and the global itself is moving. Some of you may have heard about this term, which is the new thing. Some of you may have heard about green business practices, green economy, or you may have also heard about blue economy and so on. Now everything has been comprised under circular economy now. Now what is circular economy? From linear economy, which is we take from the raw materials, we produce products, we use it and so on, and we keep on disposing. So we were in the throwaway culture. Okay, so we have been keep on throwing, very limited effort been embarked on recycling, recovering, remanufacturing, and so on. So therefore, we have accumulated so much of wastages. So from linear economy, they have also moved to reuse economy, but now the entire global, even the corporations and the businesses have also moved into circular economy. Circular economy is about how to, when it comes from the raw material, we use for production, we use it, and how can we recover back for reuse, reducing, reusing, and recycling. And when it comes to production, it will become remanufacturing, etc. Okay, so in circular economy, there are 5 pillars or 5 business models. For an example, product as a service. A clear example that who is using this service is our 24-hour laundry services, where you can see people nowadays sometimes or most of them are using these services where they do not own a washing machine, so that you don't need to purchase a washing machine as a product, but you can use it as a service. Same goes to mobile phone, where some of your service providers are giving options that you can change your phone by trading in or giving back to them, take back system and so forth, so that you do not need to own the phone, but you can use it for a year and then keep on changing or keep updating and so forth. Sharing platform, that is something like our Uber, Grab, and so forth, where we are in the sharing platform. And product as product life extension, where extending the life extension of any sort of product for a longer period of time instead of just using it for a short while. Then we have recovery and recycling. The moment that any sort of material or any sort of products that where we can recover for recycling and so forth. And then we move on to circular supply chain, that is more on the bio-based areas and so forth. So these are the 5 business models in circular economy. Now, for an example, IKEA is already championing circular economy, all right? Where you can take a look at the diagram where they produce it, and then after that they give the consumer the option, and they create the brand loyalty. And the moment that when you want to dispose it, or you do not want to have the same design, you can contact them back again, where they can take it back and refurbish it for you. Or in the event that you want to go for another totally new product, then they will take back your old furnitures and they will refurbish it, and then they will resell it and so forth. So by doing this, they were reducing the waste that originates or comes out from their own factory, their brand. They reduce the carbon emission that is being emitted from their production. They are creating the brand loyalty. They are reducing all sort of waste in total. All right. At the same time, they are also having a sustainable development, which covers all the SDGs. All right. So who are the early movers within the industry in Malaysia, where you can see for the 5 different business models, as I said just now. McDonald's and T-Life Eco is already in the circular supply chain. Philip Healthcare is in the sharing platform. FGV is on the product life extension. Acer, Intel are already into the technology guys are already into even the other E&E, electrical electronic industries are already into the recovery and the recycling. IKEA, as I mentioned, the product as a service and so forth. Now, the plastics industry in Malaysia are the very first trade association, and the trade, they are already into the entire plastic supply chain are already into the circular economy model in Malaysia, moving ahead with that. And the ministry is also coming out with a roadmap for plastic circular economy roadmap, which is for 2020 to 2030, which will be published soon. All right, what are the benefits of circular economy for all? There are lots of benefits, starting from the producers. For an example, every producers are required to submit their sustainability report on a yearly basis, and now circular economy is one of the element where they need to produce and provide data on how much of carbon emission that they have saved and so forth. Now, for the nation is, of course, we are reducing and moving towards zero waste and reducing waste towards the landfill. And at the same time, as I mentioned, from third ranking in ASEAN, we have to reduce the carbon emission in all angle. For a consumer, for you and me, at the end of the day, all of us are consumers. So we are moving towards that. We need to have more education awareness with regards to this. We have to reduce our carbon footprint, not only with regards to the waste, but also in all the other areas. For an example, when you're using your vehicles, your transportation, and when you're using your electricity in terms of your energy usage, etc. Then when it comes to recyclers and everyone in the supply chain. So now, what are the pain points here? Now, the pain points here in Malaysia when it comes to waste, there are lack of infrastructure. So meaning like there are poor collection method, there are poor regulation in certain areas. When I'm talking about infrastructure, for an example, your house, for an example, you have a 120-liter bin, but you only have 2 people at home. You may not need a 120-liter bin. But in a public area, there's the same 120-liter bin or a 240-liter bin, but the amount of rubbish or waste over there is huge or larger in size. So that 120-liter bin may not be sufficient enough. So that is where I mentioned about lack of infrastructure. High contamination rate. Now, Mr. Suresh mentioned this now, and later maybe if I have the time, I will explain to you why Malaysia actually imported this waste and what happened when this scandal of this thing going on when the waste is being exported to Malaysia and so forth. Now, the first of all, we need to understand how many of us segregating our waste. Most of the Malaysians do not segregate our waste, so therefore it is highly contaminated. Okay. Now, collectors in Malaysia or over here, when it comes to the recyclables, they are choosy. Of course, because it is economic of scale, they will only take there's a value in it, and the rest they will leave it out. Now, unavailability of recycling technology, that is due to lack of supply and inconsistency of supply. Now, then the other one is no transparency, therefore there's no sustainability, no value. There are also illegal branding where they will refill the containers and resell it. We do not have a RRI, meaning recovery and recycling inventory. Okay. All right. Now, moving on, also the pain points. The other pain points are like the local authorities, because all our waste management is covered under our PBTs, meaning the local authorities. Okay. There's a budget squeeze, less funding available for resource recovery, waste collection services. quantity of waste per capita decline is still low. Communication between the service user, local authorities, and the service provided are limited at the best. Taxpayers do not know the cost of resource recovery. I'll come back to this in a while. Services that fit for all. Okay, for an example, as I mentioned, we have a bill for TNB. We have a water bill. Do we have a bill for our wastages? Now, if we do not have a bill, how do we, take accountability of how much wastages is actually going out from our house? How to reduce? Because only, like for example, for electricity bill, every month we will have a bill. So from there we will be able to know what is our electricity usage, and when out of sudden there's an increase, then we will know, okay, we need to reduce it because there's a increase, we are paying for it and so forth. But when it comes to wastages, think about it. We everything fits for all, and we are keep on paying through our tax and so forth. So therefore, that's the reason why we do not take accountability to that as well. Now, on the other side is there's no link between the services and quantity produced or the cost. So same diagram as Dr. Siva mentioned just now. The bottleneck here is upon purchasing, there's a disposal when it becomes post-consumer, and then we have the technologies. Okay, we have the recycling technology, we can have the landfill, or we can have the incinerators and everything. Now, the in-between problem here is the moment the waste is being collected until it reaches the what we call the technology or even the landfill. Okay, so this is where the problem happens, and everyone here is working on silos, not connected or not interconnected. Therefore, we do not know who's doing what. Okay, so that's a reason why we need to talk about data. Data equals to knowledge. Okay, we are talking about digitization and digitalization, etc. Especially during this COVID, during our COVID and MCO, etc. Okay, so this is also to identify what is the data like. Now, the new technology about collecting more data is crucial and important. For example, what type of waste actually is in the bin? Okay, what is it made of? Where are the vehicles or the trucks? What is the composition of plastics in the waste or any type of waste in the types of waste in the total amount of waste? How it can the load, whether it can harm the staff or anyone. How much of waste is actually in the waste bin, and what is contaminated, etc. So whenever we have a good amount of data, it can drive better action. So therefore we will be able to have better decision making. So if we do not have a proper data, then of course we won't be able to have a better decision making. Therefore, we won't have a proper policy. We won't be able to have a proper technology to overcome this or to tackle this. So therefore, that's the reason why technology is important. Now, what we do here. So what we do is we make the world's waste visible, verifiable, and valuable. Okay, making a difference across the waste and the materials value chain. So what we do here is through our trash tracer system, we connect everyone in the supply chain, from the producer, from the retailer or the manufacturer or the converter, the collector, the consumer, and the recycling, whether it's a recycling industry or whether it's any other industry, transform it to upcycling, and then it becomes a new material. So this is how we drive this back to circular economy. So to enable this, you need a digital platform. This digital platform will enable any industry to move forward by tracking. So we have a mobile app and a back-end system. We do it for household and commercial or business outlets. We also do specialized collection for certain type of products, and then we create the value and through quality and quantity. We also have a reverse vending machine for PET bottle, aluminum cans, and beverage cartons. So As I mentioned, this is what we accept, this is what we collect. Now, where you can also see on your right, where these are the types of products where most of the recycling collectors would not collect it, because this type of wrappers, garbage bags, packaging does not have a value to them. But we know how to make that valuable. So, and we work with the brands and the supply chain, as I mentioned. So that's the reason why we are not choosy, we are different, where we collect everything. Okay, so through the system, it is wireless, it provides the data, it also provides the rewards, education, awareness, and everything under one system. This is the flow of it. And from the flow of this, we also will be able to identify the types of waste, the quantity, the product brand owners as well, so that we work again through EPR, Extended Producer Responsibility. All right, so where we start, we do the tracking of the product through their life cycle. We optimize the fleet efficiency. We also optimize the delivery routes, tracking the products through their use cycle of it. We avoid all type of waste. We do the sorting of the recycled materials to be recycled, and everything through an efficient reverse logistics system. We have traceability and transparency over here. And through our carbon calculator, we will be able to also calculate individuals and companies, or even the products carbon emission, through artificial intelligence and blockchain technology. Through that, we will be able to have a report like environmental impact report, financial value, and social impact. So what are the key benefits? The key benefits to the local authorities, where the budget can go further for different approach, where sometimes, and in when we are doing it in PJ, we don't even charge MBPJ. Transparency and incentive pricing that affect the consumer behavior. It also active user engagement. This is very important, because we engage with the users, the consumers, and so on. We get the we get a better feedback. Mass customization on the resource recovery, digitization and digitalization through operation efficiency, and changing the behavior through nudging, gamification, education, etc. So a case study for you to on what we have done and what we are currently also doing in PJ. We started with about 800 plus houses in SS22 and 22A, where in the beginning they only used to put it out, the recyclables, to get rid of everything. But now when we used our system, they have a separate bin. We have a barcode or a QR code to the bin, and they will scan the product barcode at the point of purchasing or at the point of disposing. And from there, we will be able to know which household produces or generates what type of products, or which type of materials goes in, etc., etc., even before we go to the ground for collection. All right. So from there, we will be able to know. So we do two types of collection. One is on-call collection, and one is scheduled collection. So through this, we were able to identify the amount of waste, not only by kg. Okay. Now, and after that, since PJ is moving towards low carbon city, and out of the low carbon city element, one of the element is actually waste. So now, how to identify the waste? So previously, they only have a photograph that to show proof that they are recycling. But through our system, it is more measurable with the results and data, so that the evidence to claim the rebate. So for that, we were awarded by the mayor in 2019. The same similar effort was done in Malacca with the schools, with one of the project by MPMA, Dow, and Syntex, where we have collected total weight of 18,372 kgs. But you have to also look into the number of units, 48,588 products, okay, units. Now, why am I saying this? Is because, give an example, 1 kg of PET bottle equivalent to 45 bottles. Now, when you take it in number, in terms of kg, 1 kg, it may look small when you compare to that 42,000 ton that we are generating every day. So 1 kg of PET bottle is only 45. But then if you put that 45 bottles in one space, it really accumulates a lot of space. All right. So that's the reason why we don't go by weight alone, but we also go by number of units. So similarly, we are working with the industries like FMCGs, commercial packaging, agriculture, plastics, paper, automotive, etc. Where on the other side, where you can also see industry commitments globally, where they have already committed towards moving circular economy, etc. by 2030, 2025, etc. So one of the example where you also can see that when we embarked with the Department of Agriculture, the pesticide containers were just discarded, been thrown away before this. And after coming up with this program, we did the recovery and now we converted into usable products like this. All right, so with that, I wish everyone to rise towards circular. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Siva. Thank you. Thank you. A lot of great points there. So let's get on to the Q&A session. We have received a lot of questions till now. Thank you, Dr. Siva. I've seen that you were busy replying to the few questions online. That's amazing. That was very quick, actually. so let's start with yourself, Dr. Siva. Based on the slides here, let's get to the basics, because you are covering a lot about what's actually happening on the ground, and how then it resulted as became a problem. How much of waste at the source is being separated in Malaysia? What is the success, or sad to say, failure factor?
Okay, interesting. Success or failure factor or separation at source. Actually, if you look at the Malaysian urban population, okay, I divide this into the urban population and the rural population. So in the urban areas, a lot of them want to recycle. A lot of them do their segregation at home, or they drop off their recyclables with some old folks home. Some of us give it to old folks home. Some of us go and give it to all these paper lama guys and suchi and all of that. So segregation is happening. The issue here is when we segregate and when we put it out of our houses, is it being collected individually, or is it being left to natural forces so that they can make the most economics out of things? Now, this is the biggest issue, and rightfully said, because I don't want to be critical here, but because our waste management is more towards collecting and disposing rather than collecting and recycling or diverting from the landfill, the end game for all our collectors are to collect and deliver it to the landfill. The more I collect, the more I deliver to the landfill, the more I get paid. So looking at it from a business point of view, I must collect more and I must deliver more. That would mean more income to me. So that's a business point of view. And all these corporations are business corporations, which we cannot deny the fact that they are doing a business. And when you are doing a business, it's simple. Where is the bottom line? What do I need to do to ensure my bottom line is positive? Now, taking that out of the context, the simple thing is, how can we now ensure that when we recycle or when we segregate in the house, what are the possibilities for us to then ensure it ends up in a recycling center? So number one, we can use people like Dr. Sri's apps. We can come to Recycle for Life or Senviro. We can go to all the paper lama guys that come to your front door every weekends. We can go to all the old folks home. A lot of these old folks home collect things and make some money out of that. So the options are there. Do we want to move ourselves? the question is that.
We
That
have
will
to
give you a
move.
success factor.
Yeah,
That will give you a success factor.
right. Dr. Sri, a question from you, moving to you. Early part of your slide, yeah, based on early part of the slide, what can we as consumers do to, coming down to the basic question, what can we as consumers do to help save the environment?
Okay, first thing is practice the 3 R's: reduce, reuse, and recycle. Now, but then most of the time we think that we should only do that after purchasing a product.
Huh, yeah.
But then we have to do that even before purchasing the product to look into whether do we really need a product? Do we really need a packaging? Can we reduce the packaging? Can we, reduce our consumption first of all? All right. Can we reuse whatever we have? And then only after that, when we can't do that both, then only we move into what are the possibilities that we go into recycling. Now, the 3 R's is not just only for consumers. It should also be practiced by the producers, where the producers are also for business owners or whoever who are joining here today, who can be a business owner. It is also for you to also think about how can you practice the 3 R's in your own product or your services itself. Your consumption, your not only your product consumption when it comes to waste, even energy consumption, your water consumption, all these are also being wasted. Okay, so we as a consumer, we as an individual, these are the very fundamental thing that we need to do. Now beyond that, then we do our, when it comes to waste, okay, we do our waste segregation. Okay, that is from the municipal solid waste. When it comes to energy and water, I believe I think everyone knows what we need to do.
Sure, sure. So back to you, Dr. Siva. Going further in your presentation just now, you've given a few choices with regards to what we can do. I think you've given about 3-4 choices. But what would be your recommendation for the community throughout Malaysia, or even NGOs? There are a lot of green NGOs here driving this in Malaysia. What can all of us do, even including Rotary? What can all of us do? We are doing a lot, of course, our action group, but what can us and all other NGOs and communities, right? The Tamans and Rukun Tangas, or whatever we call it, right? To build awareness and to drive this recycling mindset. That has to happen, isn't it?
Okay, great question, Suresh. What my simple way of putting this is always back to the 80-20 rule, and what you have most within your vicinity. So always go back to what we have with us. Okay, let's not go and find outside, or let's not go and, so what we have with us is the organics, and organics basically makes up 50% of what we throw, or even more sometimes. So if we can collect these organics either as individuals or as a group of people, whether it's under Rotary, whether it's under your own taman, or whether it's under your walking group or anyone, just gather, get this thing, compost the material. Composting is the easiest thing to do. All you need to do is get a bit of get a bit of soil, mix up this material, and leave it, and then keep on turning it on a daily basis. The compost will, you will generate this simple compost, and as you add on your leaves and whatsoever in your house, that compost will then become something which is very useful to you. You can use it within your household, or, now the thing that I always recommend people is, don't leave it as compost. Put it into a pot, plant a chili, plant a tomato, plant some bayam. There's so many things that we can do, and let's not try and become the next vegetable farmer lah. But
Yeah.
at least maybe you can get our own chilies. Maybe we can get our own, what do you call, carrot or radish or something, you know. So the possibilities are there. And most of us would have done this during our school days, doing this pertanian and all of these things. So it's just going back to nature, and believe me, when you eat your own produce, I can bet you it tastes nicer.
Yeah, agreed.
I can guarantee you it tastes nicer. So my recommendation is just that, like, come back to the if we solve the organics, believe me, the rest of the problem, whatever you throw out the door will definitely be very, very easy to segregate, very easy to be handled. The rest of the waste management will take care of itself. Let's try and solve the organics at our own doorsteps without it going out of our doorsteps. That will solve a lot of problems.
Yeah, it's good to, I mean, it's good recommendation to go down to basics of what they can do within their compound or outside their door, right?
Yep.
So,
Yep.
Dr. Sri, there's one interesting slide where you said that, almost everything, for example, within what you do, you are able to collect everything, I believe, yeah? But, but realistically, yeah, from everything that it's, every recyclable material that would, or question, let me rephrase it, would all collected recyclable materials get recycled actually? If
Right.
it's not, why not? Why not? Yeah.
Okay, good question. Yes, because even the world have, the research have shown that only 9% out of the total waste is get recycled. Only 9%. Okay. Now that is because, as I mentioned, when there is a supply and inconsistency of that supply, when there's no quality and quantity, so therefore that's the reason why no one is collecting it. Put it for example, aluminium cans. Can you find it out there? No, because there's a value.
Yeah.
There's a value for it. There is a industry for it. That's the reason why anyone is collecting it and just sending it for recycling, and they can earn out of it. All right. But then when it comes to plastics or any other materials, some materials are valuable. When it comes to, let me talk about plastics a little bit here. Rigid plastics there's a value for it, and the soft plastics does not have a value for it. The reason is it is light in weight, so no one collects it, and there's no recycling technology towards that. Okay. But now what we do is we do it in a reverse way, where when we do the collection, we create the quantity and the quality. So therefore the technology will emerge by itself.
Okay. So Dr. Siva, thank you, Dr. Sri, for the question, for the answer. Let's go on to Dr. Siva, back to Dr. Siva. You have given once again a lot of suggestions just now, yeah, I think four major ones. Yeah, but that will be about relying on, for example, the organizations like Dr. Sri, MEC, the other organizations, Justice Enviro. But based on all the info that you know, that's not, I'm sure that's a lot more info other than in the slide. What kind of activities are considered today as, on the ground, appealing to the community at large? And what can they look forward to?
Okay. Thanks again. You're hitting the right points, Suresh. Basically, what a community or what an individual can do. Okay, I always believe in this. When people talk about waste management, when people talk about recycling, there are two types of people. One, the people who do recycling as a fashion, as a life, as something that they want to look good, they want to so-called save the environment. And the second group of people who do recycling to put food on their table. Okay, so these are the two main categories that we know of. Okay, so the people who do recycling to put food on their table, we know they will go and pick up anything and everything as long as there is a dollar cent a dollar sign related to that material,
Yes.
and that material will disappear from the environment and be put into the recyclers. Now,
Yes.
if you take that, for instance, if you go to places like India, Vietnam, Bangladesh, and all of that, you name it, they will pick it up for you and bring it back to you as long as the economics makes sense to them. So that is one group of recyclers, and these people will do anything for recycling. Now, the second group of recyclers are the people who I call them fashion recyclers. They want to do recycling because they want to look good. They care for the environment. They want their next generation to have a green planet to go into. But these people are the ones who will just do something so that it gets passed on to the next person to do the actual recycling. I want to just give my material to someone and then you go do it. It's dirty work. Don't come and ask me to do it. I earn 30,000, 40,000, 50,000 a month. I am not going to go and sit down there and pick a garbage and start doing this thing. So it's two different languages. So again, if you want to do it with conviction. Okay. Number two, when you are doing it, you have to bring yourself down and be able to get the material, put it down, do the composting, or take the material, take it to an old folks home, donate it there, or use some kind of applications or whatsoever, find the nearest collection center, drop it off. So it doesn't matter how you recycle. It doesn't matter how you recycle. As long as you make sure whatever you consume and whatever you don't want then gets passed on to the next level of people who wants to make economical sense out of it, the material will not end up in the environment. Our goal is very simple, to ensure that this material that we don't want doesn't end up in the environment and become a pollutant to us.
Right.
Okay, so that's the main goal in what we want to do. And in that case, so if I'm affluent enough, then I pass it on to someone who will then want to make it as an income to that person.
Yeah.
Or I give it to I do it in such a way that I reduce my consumption. So I think what Dr. Sri said just now is very important. First thing is reduce your consumption. Second thing is look at how you can reuse all your products. Number three is the recycling. So very often I tell people, please do not ask for a plastic bag when you buy your loaf of bread.
Right.
Your loaf of bread is already in a plastic bag. You do not need another plastic bag to carry that plastic bag back home.
Yeah. So, like, I think what Dr. Sri also mentioned, the manufacturers also need to play a role, because based on, just say, even talking about toothpaste, in overseas, in Europe, they are just giving you now that casing with the toothpaste. They don't have that packaging anymore. Just say Colgate or whatever brands, right? They don't have the packaging. You just go there, you pick that casing, and there's nothing to throw. Of course, finally, it's the final part, right? So it's a waste of money. It's a waste of money having that packaging. Yeah.
Yes, so as soon as we can understand the fact that we pay for the packaging
Yes.
only to bring it back home,
And
open
throw
it
it away.
up, tear it up, and then dump it back into the garbage bin.
Yes.
So basically what you're doing is when you take a $10 note and you divide it into 10 1 ringgit notes, you are basically tying at least 3 1 ringgit notes and putting it into the garbage bin for your packaging, and
Yes.
the 7 ringgit is actually the product that you want to use,
Agreed.
or even more in some cases.
Agreed. So let me go on to Dr. Sri. I think good about all individuals, what they can do, and so far. But also, I think Dr. Siva mentioned about the business component. And coming to Dr. Sri, I think from what I've read, circular economy is going to be said to be the $1 trillion economy, right? So how can a person or a business get involved, Dr. Sri? I think that is the $1 billion question or the $1 trillion question.
Okay, as I mentioned, there are 5 business models that are all the opportunities that where the business are actually could move into this. Okay, for the 5 supporting business model. Now, for an example, now if you may have a product that you can rent it out as a service. See, these are all the opportunities that now coming up where, and on the other side is there anything that that you could provide in order to not only save the environment but to reduce the carbon emission. Okay, so through this all these supporting elements, if you google it, you will be able to find more information, or you can also email it to me. I'll be happy to share it, where there are lots of information with regards to circular economy which is happening now. All right, there are 5 business models and there are 11 sub models.
Wow.
Okay, so out of that 11 sub models, each and every of it have an element to it. Okay, and this is going to be the next wave of economic in globally. All right, now for an example, when it comes to, even when I can see in the chat box, I can see lots of questions coming up regards to plastics and so forth. Now, packaging or whatever it is, there are also legislation coming up. Even in UK, they have mentioned that if your product does not consist or have 40% minimum recycled content, then your product cannot be in the UK market. All right, so that's how the global is moving towards, and this is also putting a peer pressure on the brands, where they need to use recycled content. They also have to reduce it. They are also looking into ways of how to recover it and remanufacture it and so forth. Now, when we are comparing with global and so on, yes, Malaysia, as you know, we are in a slow phase, but now it is moving fast. Okay, in the policy level, myself and Dr. Siva, we know that where is it moving to, but of course, on a lower ground, the implementation is not there yet to an extent. So this is where, yes, we can talk about everything, but it's now we have to start within ourselves. We as an individual, our family, our community, even as a Rotary Club, what can we do together?
So we need to influence change, right? For sure, right? We need to do that.
Change starts from us.
Start from an individual, the family, and then the community, and of course, clubs like the Rotary District, yeah, as a whole, and pushing authorities to enact new laws or the right kind of laws to protect us, basically, right? And protect the planet, right?
Exactly. And now it have to be really data oriented. We, as we all know that we have been doing lots of campaigns and so on, but then what is the outcome? So only data will be able to provide proper information and show you whether it's a successful result or not.
So, Dr. Siva, back to you mentioned a few, the four approaches in terms of business, but is it costly for any individual to start a business? Some of it looks expensive, but is it costly for individual to start a business in this area related to waste and so on? And ultimately, it's not but just starting the business, but where will they sell their products? Locally, overseas? And are there such programs? Klang Valley in other parts of Malaysia?
Okay, thanks, Suresh. I think Dr. Sri is one good example. Okay, so he is local. He is willing to take up whatever that you want to throw out. He is willing to come and pick it up at your house, and he is making money out of it. So basically, it's how you want to innovate. I think there are quite a few innovative ideas running around. I have seen guys who are buying up all these used cooking oil canisters.
Wow.
Okay, use cooking oil canisters.
Yeah.
They cut it into two. They cut it right down the middle. Okay, that becomes their pot for planting vegetables.
Okay, right.
The compost comes from whatever they collect around their housing estate or whichsoever. And rightfully, I saw a comment just now that vegetable waste and fruit peels are easy to compost, whereas protein waste, which is animal, what is this, chicken or fish or whatsoever, it's a bit, yes, I do agree, it's a bit harder. And there are composting agents which can be used to enhance the decomposition rate of this material. So again, there are a lot of solutions. I think if you go by a lot of our tamans, we have the small nurseries that sell flowers,
Right.
And all these plants. So in fact, I have got not in my taman, but the next taman, I've got the nursery where they give out all their small plants. They give out all their nursery plants to the people around. They plant and then they propagate and then they give back, and it's a symbiotic, what do you call, it's a symbiotic approach in, and they get some small economic returns and all of that. So so back to your question of whether it's expensive, depending on how you want to look at it, how you want to drive this thing. But to me, it is the cheapest, and it's where you want to, how much you can afford, number one. Who are doing locally, you got one person sitting right in front of us now, Dr. Sri. There are many more guys in and around Malaysia. So look at who is nearest to you. I think if you throw a stone, you'll definitely find out a lot of people who are doing it. Number three, where you want to sell. Pasar malam, pasar pagi, pasar tani, or and every other. In fact, no need to sell lah. If it's vegetables, you know, and if it's good vegetables, believe me, I don't
People
think so.
come
It'll
to
be
you, right? People come to you.
exactly. So once the word goes around, I think it'll definitely come.
So, Dr. Sri, you mentioned about certain types of waste having some issues in whether going through the process, whether it could be part of the circular economy process. But is it a material problem or a behavioral problem? In Malaysia, sometimes, you know, I'm lost in answering the question.
Okay, many of them thinks that it is material problem when it comes to waste. Okay, many of them blame on the material. Actually, as you know, that materials are being invented for our convenience. Okay, now for an example, I can also show that like how Dr. Siva mentioned this now, diapers. First of all, ask ourselves this question: how many of us are willing to go back from not purchasing diapers, going back to napkin? Can we do that for our children or not? Okay.
Yeah.
Reason is,
yeah.
at the end of the day, it will come back to this answer, which is convenience. All of us are talking about convenience.
Agreed.
All right, we don't have enough much time. Therefore, some people couldn't do composting. There's no enough much time to do segregation. There's no enough much time to do, don't have even have much time to do planning when go to purchasing and so forth. Okay, so that's the reason why we are in the convenience world. So we have to come out from the comfortable comfort zone. Okay, now, but then again, put it this way, the inventions like the diapers, okay, yes, when it was invented, we wouldn't have known that there is going to be such a big problem in the future in 2021 or in 2020, right? But now it is also depends on us. There are technologies, there are various areas on how to do this as well, but it all depends on how we are managing it. How can we manage it? Okay, so now for the other example is the carbon emission comes most from our transportation. Okay, but in everyone's house we have minimum 2 cars. How many of us are carpooling nowadays?
No, very few.
Public transport and so on. So yes, because of our convenience and so on, so we are using this. So we have to manage it. Okay, so same coming back to the waste, there are lots of types of waste. It's not a material problem alone. It is also our behavioral problem. So therefore, we must know how to manage it.
Yasmin, do we still have time or we are actually running out of time?
I think there are some
Can't hear you.
questions coming out from the chat box as well.
Yes,
If you have the time.
I think we can have this afterwards because the fellowship may continue, but we don't want to lose our crowd and we would like to present you with a certificate and we would like to thank you accordingly. So thank you very much, Suresh, for moderating the session. In view of time, of course,
Sure, sure.
though the discussion is really encouraging.
So
We
many
would
questions. Yeah.
That's right. We would like now to invite the co-chair of Dagis, Dr. Dilipan Nair, to express our gratitude and appreciation to our speakers. Over to you, Doctor.
Thank you, Yasmin. Thank you to Dr. Sri, Dr. Siva, and also Suresh for moderating the session. I think there are a lot of questions to be asked, I think, in the chat box. We don't have time for that. Probably we can do it after this formal session. We can go to some of the questions. Those who want to stay back and get the responses can stay back. But what I would like to say is the few Rotary clubs who are already doing some of this things you mentioned, composting. I think some of it, like I personally compost most of the food waste which comes out of my house and reuse it in our garden. I think the Rotary Club of Tampin, our IPDG, Leo mentioned that his club in Tampin does vermicomposting, and it's then used for farming there among the members and the community there in Tampin. We also have Rotary Club of in Klang, who does collection of oil, use cooking oil. So there are already some who are already doing some of these activities. And I think your talk today actually enlightened all of us, the issues we have here and technologies and innovations which are available. And the reason why we're having this webinar is slowly to educate our Rotary clubs who exist in the whole country, actually in West Malaysia. Our district covers a part of most of West Malaysia, is for them to maybe take up these initiatives in their communities. They can also learn from other Rotary clubs which are already doing it, and then learn from the masters like both of you on how we can actually work with the communities, actually on those waste such as food waste, plastics and paper. Paper, I think, not really sure. Aluminum can is not an issue, but basically, I think it's food waste and plastics, which we need to get a solution which can be done at the home. So thank you very much for presenting. We also would like to visit EPIC if possible. Sometime get a group of Rotarians to visit EPIC and learn. I think we were planning a trip last year, year before last, but due to the COVID, that has not happened. We also have another Rotarian, I think, Dato Ram, who has just, I think, his technology of solid waste incineration for small premises was actually highlighted by Dr. Siva. So, so we have Rotary clubs who are already members, and Rotary clubs who are already taking some small steps. But hopefully, when with this webinars, which we are going to continue, leading to the climate conference, which will take place on July 4th, we are targeting an online audience of about 3,000 people from all over the world, actually Rotarians, because Rotary has now embraced, support our environment as the 7th area of focus. So I think this the webinar, the first webinar we have started today. I think it is a good step going on educating our Rotarians so they can actually be the voice of the community and do things in their community to actually improve our environment. So thank you to both of you all for coming. We hope you can also participate in future sessions with us because I think today's session was very short. You covered a lot of topics, so we look forward to other sessions with both of you, maybe even field visits to some of the things which you all are doing. So Thank you very much. And I think in appreciation of your participation today, we like to present a certificate of appreciation. We can only zoom to you now. The
Thank you very
hard
much.
copy will be
Thank you. Thank you.
sent to you in a short while to Dr. Siva and also to Dr. Sri. Thank you very much again. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much for the opportunity.
Please stay back for further, questions and answers. Thank you.
Definitely. Thank you.
Okay. Once again, thank you, Dr. Sri and Dr. Siva. That was truly an eye-opening and insightful session and great participation amongst the Zoomers too. Our chat box is knee-deep with very good and relevant questions. And for those of you who would like to have the slides or the recording of the session, please email us at dages.330@gmail.com. Yeah, and also do join our group on Facebook, District Action Group on Environmental Sustainability, Dages, Malaysia. And we will keep you informed on all our future initiatives, activities, and projects. And together we can do more for our Earth. Thank you again for your presence and participation. The official session has concluded, but do stay for the fellowship and networking. Good night.